The morning sun slipped through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Vidian Tech's downtown headquarters, bathing the open-plan office in a soft, blue-green light. Samir Patel sat in his cubicle, a neat stack of reports beside him, a steaming mug of black coffee in his hand. His screen flickered with the latest dashboards, numbers that mattered to the world of data and opportunity. He was a mid-level analyst in the product strategy team, a role he had held for 2.5 years. By all accounts, Samir was competent, disciplined, and unassuming. He kept his voice low in meetings, letting the data speak for him, and he had a knack for making complex trends appear simple. That was the paradox of Samir's personality, a quiet core, a public presentation talent that was a secret weapon for the senior analysts who were still waiting for their turn at the top. Vidian Tech was a tech titan that prided itself on a culture of innovation. Its open-door policy, transparent promotion processes, and daily innovation hubs had earned the company a reputation as a place where hard work paid off. In every coffee break, people talked about the next big idea, the next breakthrough patent, the next partner that could be onboarded. In that environment, Samir's ambition was like a fire, burning bright, but not shouting out loud. He had watched the promotion process unfold over the last 18 months, waiting for the moment when the senior analyst position would finally open. He had taken every opportunity to shine, closing 3 major deals that secured the company millions in revenue, contributing 2 patents that were being integrated into Vidian's flagship products. When Ms. Leclerc, his department head, announced that promotions would be decided at the end of the month, he felt a glimmer of hope that his ambition might finally pay off. "Samir, you've been doing an excellent job," Leclerc said in a Friday meeting, eyes flicking from one screen to another. "We'll need to review your request with upper management, but I believe you're ready." Samir kept a calm smile, a practiced expression that belied the nervousness under his calm exterior. "Thank you, Ms. Leclerc. I appreciate your confidence." It wasn't the first time Samir had asked for a promotion, it was the 3rd time in a row. He was no stranger to the office's pulse. Every Friday, the company's leadership posted a celebratory video on the intranet, featuring an upbeat montage of success stories. Those videos became a ritual, a reminder of the company's meritocratic promise. They were the soundtrack to Samir's dream, the invisible promise that his hard work would eventually be recognized. 2. Vidian's culture. The open-door policy extended beyond the physical office, it was a philosophy that permeated the way people interacted. The floor plan allowed anyone to walk into a colleague's desk, to drop by a manager's office, to find a conversation happening in a conference room. In that environment, transparency was more than a buzzword, it was a lifestyle. And every employee, from interns to directors, believed that merit alone determined advancement. 3. The promotion announcement. On the final day of the month, the corporate intranet erupted with an email from the Director of Human Resources: "Congratulations to all the teams who have contributed to our quarterly results. As promised, we will be announcing promotions and recognitions over the next week. Please watch the video on the main channel for a sneak peek." Samir watched the video on his breakroom tablet. The video opened with a montage of the company's milestones, the smiling faces of the leadership, and the proud image of Jamie Torres, who had joined Vidian just 9 months prior, receiving the senior analyst title. Jamie's face shone on the screen, his arms spread wide as his supervisor applauded him. "Jamie," Leclerc had said, "your growth has been exceptional." The video ended with a shot of the company's logo, and a single line of text: merit, transparency, opportunity. Samir sat back in his chair, his heart pounding. He had seen all of that, but the real decision had already been made, and it was a different face than he expected. 4. The 18-month waiting game. For 18 months, Samir had been on the waiting list for the senior analyst promotion. He'd closed 3 deals that yielded $12 million in revenue for Vidian, he'd secured a patent on a predictive model that was now part of the company's flagship analytics platform, and he'd been the subject of several positive performance reviews. He'd taken part in multiple innovation hubs, presenting his ideas to an engaged audience. When Ms. Leclerc told him that the decision would go through upper management before being announced, Samir felt a mixture of excitement and fear. "We'll discuss with upper management first," she had said, her voice gentle but firm. Samir's mind tried to absorb that advice, trying to keep his cool while he weighed his options. At the end of the month, the promotion went to Jamie Torres. The office was buzzing, but the reaction to the news was not what Samir had imagined. Some of his colleagues were excited, seeing a new opportunity. Others were surprised. Jamie had only been there for a year. Yet, the buzz was palpable. The open-door culture had not been broken. When the promotion news was announced, the company released a video of the same style. Samir's mind ran. He remembered closing deals that had helped the company. He remembered his contributions to patents. He remembered his quiet, steady presence that had shaped the department's culture. All of that seemed to vanish in a single sentence on a screen: Jamie Torres, Senior Analyst. Samir felt blindsided but kept his composure. He was a professional. He did not let the rejection spill over into a complaint. 5. Nina's invitation. Just a few days after the promotion, Samir was approached by Nina Patel, a colleague in the same team. She had moved to Vidian from a different firm 2 years ago. Nina had a cheerful presence, a knack for motivating her peers, and she invited Samir to a team-building retreat. She said it was a chance to relax, learn, and get new ideas flowing. "Samir, you're a key player in our team. I'd love to have you on the retreat," she said. "I think you would have great insights, and it would be great to spend time together." Samir accepted the invitation. The retreat was a week-long getaway at a scenic lodge in the hills. It was a break from the office life, a chance to unwind, share experiences, and discuss ideas without the buzz of the conference rooms. 6. The retreat revelation. At the campfire that night, when the stars were a glittering dome above the pine trees, Samir found himself in a conversation with Nina. They laughed about office politics and how often people in tech forget the human side. Samir, feeling a bit more relaxed, talked about the small tech startup he'd founded in college. He said it had been acquired by a rival firm a few years back. The conversation turned to hidden ownership. He said, "I did own a stake in a subsidiary that had services for Vidian. But it was an inactive position. It didn't influence my work." Ms. Leclerc, who had been there for a few minutes to meet with her team, overheard Nina's conversation. She wasn't a fan of secrecy. Her policy was transparency. That night, she slept with a heavy feeling in her chest. The next morning, she went through Samir's public records, LinkedIn, and the local business registry. She uncovered that Samir was, in fact, the undisclosed majority shareholder of a subsidiary that provided services to Vidian. The subsidiary, which had been an important part of the company's supply chain, had had its services integrated into Vidian's product line. That was a conflict of interest that the company's policy stated had to be disclosed. Ms. Leclerc confronted Samir in the break room. "How could you hide that? We're a company that values transparency," she said. "You're a senior analyst. How can you claim the title while hiding this?" Samir admitted the ownership. He claimed it was an inactive position, a mere formality. He said he had no involvement in the subsidiary's decision-making, that it did not influence his work at Vidian. 7. HR Manager Priya. Ms. Leclerc called in HR Manager Priya. She was a seasoned professional who had been with the company for 7 years. HR's policy stated, any conflict of interest that can influence decision-making must be disclosed. Priya met with Samir. Samir was offered a chance to sell his stake or step down from the subsidiary board. He refused, wanting to keep his identity secret. Priya's eyes narrowed. She said, "Samir, the policy states, conflict of interest is non-negotiable. You are violating the ethics of our company. You will be terminated." Samir felt a cold wind in his chest. He had been a senior analyst in all but name. He had been promoted to the next level but never recognized. He was about to be terminated for a policy violation. The stakes were high: his job, his career, his reputation. 8. The board. Ms. Leclerc reported Samir to the C-level. The board convened. The consensus was, we cannot risk the integrity of our promotion process. Samir was terminated. Vidian released a public statement: "We uphold a merit-based culture. Transparency is non-negotiable." The company's morale remained high. Employees who saw the scandal as a reminder of ethics and a reinforcement of meritocracy stayed positive. The board implemented a new disclosure policy for all employees. They also re-examined their promotion process to make it more transparent. 9. Samir's growth. Samir attended a legal workshop about conflict of interest. He started a consultancy to help other entrepreneurs avoid similar pitfalls. Vidian Tech's promotion process was re-examined, making it even more transparent. He received an unsolicited offer from a rival firm to lead their AI division, a hint of redemption. Act 4, Fallout, Extended 1. The board meeting. The boardroom was a cavern of polished mahogany, glass walls reflecting the faint glow of the city beyond. The CEO, a tall woman named Aisha Rahman, sat at the head of the table with a calm smile that seemed to be the very embodiment of Vidian's credo. Around her, the CFO, Dr. Mateo Ruiz, the CTO, Daniel Kwan, and the chair of the board, Sir Thomas Hale, looked like statues, firm, composed, and intent. Ms. Leclerc slid a thick folder across the table. Inside were 3 copies of Samir's performance data, a PDF of the conflict of interest policy, and a red-ink memo from HR. A hush fell over the room. Aisha cleared her throat. "Aisha, we're here to address a situation that has cast a shadow on our promotion process. We have been told that Samir Patel, a mid-level analyst in the product strategy team, failed to disclose his undisclosed majority ownership in a Vidian subsidiary. This is a direct breach of the policy that states, any conflict of interest that can influence decision-making must be disclosed." Aisha looked at each face in the room, noting the wide range of emotions. The CFO's eyes were narrowed, the CTO's fingers fidgeted in his pocket, and the chair's lips were pursed. The CEO turned to the HR manager, Priya. "Aisha, Priya, tell us what steps we need to take." Priya stood, smoothing her blazer. She was a sharp woman with a quiet strength, someone who had negotiated Vidian's first data privacy settlement in 2018. Priya, Samir's position was a dual interest in that it involved both a service provider and a client relationship. The policy was clear, that any such situation must be disclosed. In this case, Samir did not disclose his stake. That violates the conflict of interest clause. I recommend we proceed with a termination. Aisha nodded. The board was not a place for a discussion about Samir's career, they were a place for decision-making. She turned to the CFO. "Aisha, Mateo, is there any way to salvage this? A public statement will go out to the rest of the company and the press." "Mateo, we could say we're strengthening our governance. That will reinforce the merit narrative. We can roll out a new disclosure policy." The chair, Thomas Hale, cleared his throat. He was the only one with a beard, a sign of the quiet dignity that commanded respect. He said something that made everyone in the room nod. "Thomas, we have always believed that a merit-based culture cannot function if we have hidden influences. Let us not lose our way. We'll move forward with an immediate termination, a public statement, and a revised policy." Aisha placed the final decision on the table. The board passed a resolution: Samir Patel's contract is terminated effective immediately. The company will conduct an audit of all internal stakeholders and reinforce the disclosure policy. 2. The public statement. Vidian's corporate communications team drafted a concise, transparent statement that would roll out to the intranet, the HR portal, and the company's public blog. Aisha Rahman's voice was clear in the recording that would be played in the open-air break rooms and on the 24-hour Inspire channel. Vidian Tech Public Statement, April 12, 2024. We want to thank everyone for their dedication and for supporting Vidian's culture of transparency, innovation, and merit. Unfortunately, an internal investigation has identified a conflict of interest that violates our company policy. In the interest of protecting the integrity of our processes, we have terminated Samir Patel's employment. We remain committed to a transparent, merit-based culture. In the coming weeks, we will review and reinforce our promotion and disclosure policies to ensure no such incidents occur again. The message was short, professional, and devoid of any reference to any employee's humiliation or the emotional fallout. It was a brand-building exercise that, paradoxically, strengthened employee morale by showing the company stood by its values. 3. The office aftermath. The news rippled through the office like a shockwave. Some employees, like Dr. Elena Varga, lead product architect, were shocked to learn that someone from their own team could be involved in a hidden conflict of interest. Others, like Mark Latham, a junior analyst, felt relief. He had suspected that there might be favoritism at play in the promotion process and was pleased that a mistake was exposed. A week later, the HR department announced a new policy that required all employees, regardless of level, to fill out a conflict of interest disclosure form every 6 months. That form was mandatory, but the company also introduced a new digital portal, Vidian Transparency Hub, VTH, that allowed employees to upload their disclosures anonymously. The portal had a feature for whistleblowing that allowed employees to submit concerns without fear of retaliation. Aisha Rahman met with the communications team and said, "We've got a strong culture. Let's make sure that culture is reinforced. We've learned that an employee's silence can be damaging, but an employee's honesty can save us all." The new policy was announced with an in-office presentation on integrity and growth. The CEO, a short but commanding voice, explained the new portal and its importance. Employees were encouraged to read the policy in full. 4. Samir's termination letter. The termination letter arrived in Samir's email inbox, a plain, white paper envelope with the company's logo stamped in gold. The tone was clinical, devoid of any personal note. Vidian Tech, Human Resources Termination of Employment, effective April 12, 2024. We regret to inform you that your employment with Vidian Tech is terminated effective immediately. This decision follows a violation of the conflict of interest policy, specifically the failure to disclose an undisclosed majority ownership in a subsidiary that provides services to the company. This constitutes a breach of the company's ethical standards. The company is committed to upholding a merit-based culture and a transparent environment. We appreciate your contributions and wish you success in your future endeavors. The letter was signed by HR manager Priya and the CEO. It left Samir in a world of cold, sterile emails, no goodbye or thank you beyond the corporate jargon. He felt a knot tighten in his gut. He had been a quiet engine, and now the company had taken his head off. 5. The board's new policy. In the weeks that followed, the board, spurred by the incident, pushed a comprehensive review of the entire promotion pipeline. The policy overhaul was announced in a company-wide email. Vidian Tech Policy Update, Promotion and Disclosure. Starting May 1st, all promotion candidates must disclose any potential conflict of interest within 30 days of the request. We are also establishing a quarterly audit of all stakeholders. The promotion process will include a blind review panel that does not know the candidate's name until the final selection. The aim is to preserve the integrity of the meritocratic system. Aisha Rahman, the CEO, spoke in a town hall meeting. She said, "The lesson is clear, we cannot allow hidden stakes to undermine our culture. We're making changes that protect everyone." Employees reacted with a mix of shock, some were stunned by the speed of the change, and relief, as the new policy promised fairness. The open-door culture was not broken, it was simply reinforced. Act V, Aftermath and Epilogue, Extended 1. Samir's legal workshop. Samir's legal troubles had spurred him to educate himself. He registered for a weekend workshop, Ethics in the Tech Industry, hosted by the National Association for Business Ethics. The venue was a modest, conference center-style space in a suburb, surrounded by green fields and a lake. The workshop began with a guest lecture from a former corporate attorney who had been involved in the legal side of a data privacy breach at a Fortune 500 tech company. Hidden ownership is not just a violation of policy, it's a breach of trust. The law requires transparency to avoid anti-competitive practices and insider advantages, the attorney said. He also emphasized the difference between a legal conflict of interest and a moral one. Samir took notes furiously, jotting down the key phrases: conflict of interest, influence, transparency. In the lunch break, he sat with a group of other analysts from different firms. They talked about their experiences, Samir listened to the frustrations of those who had been denied promotions for minor policy infractions and those who had benefited from an open-door environment. He realized that his own story was a story of the broader industry, a cautionary tale for all. 2. The decision to start a consultancy. After the workshop, Samir's head was spinning with ideas. He remembered his own journey, from a student startup founder to an analyst, to a disgraced employee. He realized that the knowledge he had gained could help others avoid the same pitfalls. The next day, he wrote a business plan. He called his old friend Maya, who had helped him finish the legal paperwork for his startup acquisition. Maya was a software engineer at a fintech company and had a knack for seeing the bigger picture. "Samir," Maya said over video chat, "you're the most analytical mind I know. What's your plan?" "Samir, I'm going to start a consultancy, an advisory firm that focuses on conflict of interest compliance for small and medium-sized tech companies. I want to help other founders and analysts avoid this. I'll provide workshops, legal research, and compliance tools." Maya laughed. "That's a big leap, Samir. But you're good at presenting data." Samir nodded. "It's time to turn the negative into something constructive." He spent the next week setting up the legal entity. He consulted with a lawyer to draft a partnership agreement that would allow him to keep his previous equity stake private, an arrangement that, by design, was legal and transparent. He established the company as Patel Advisory Partners, headquartered in a co-working space on 5th Street. He built a website, pateladvisory.com, and began marketing. He posted on LinkedIn, wrote blog posts about navigating conflict of interest in tech startups, and created an introductory video that mirrored the style of Viridian's innovation hubs. The first client came from an up-and-coming AI startup that was about to sign a partnership with a larger company. The founders were worried about hidden interests, because their CEO had a history of holding minority stakes in suppliers. Patel Advisory helped them develop a disclosure policy that satisfied investors. 3. Vidian Tech's promotion process re-examined. In the months after Samir's termination, the board at Vidian took a more hands-on approach to refine the promotion process. Aisha Rahman, with her experience from the crisis, initiated a cross-functional task force to audit and redesign promotion pipelines. The task force included Aisha Rahman, CEO, Dr. Mateo Ruiz, CFO, Daniel Kwan, CTO, Priya Gupta, HR Manager, Sofia Alvarez, Director of Product, Liam Chen, VP of Engineering. They conducted a full audit of the promotion pipeline, from nomination to final decision. They identified potential blind spots, such as lack of anonymity in the nomination phase, everyone knew who was nominated, potential bias in the Innovation Hub reviews, senior staff often had the final say. The outcome was a new promotion process. 1. Anonymous candidate nominations. Candidates submit self-nominations via a secure portal that strips personal identifiers from the nomination data. 2. Blind review panels. Teams of cross-departmental analysts review the anonymized performance data and evaluate it using a scoring rubric. No one on the panel knows the candidate's identity until after the decision is made. 3. Conflict of interest disclosure form. All employees must file a confidential form every 12 months. The forms are stored in a separate, access-restricted database and reviewed by a third-party compliance officer, not the department head. 4. Final decision by independent panel, a panel of senior executives and external advisors, including a lawyer from the industry, make the final decision based on the review results. Aisha presented the plan to the board. They approved the new policy, and it was rolled out on June 1, 2024. Viridian's employees were given an optional workshop on the new system. The message was clear: we are stronger because we know that each of us is accountable and that we can't hide anything. 4. Samir's first client. Samir's first client came from a fintech startup called Flux Capital, which was preparing to launch an AI-driven risk assessment tool. Flux's founder, Maya Rourke, had met Samir at a networking event and was impressed by his insight. Maya Rourke: "Samir, you were the guy we hired at Vidian who closed that big data partnership. We heard you did some consulting at a startup that was acquired. We want you to help us avoid any conflict of interest pitfalls before we sign with a big bank. Samir was nervous but excited. He had built a brand around being a conflict of interest prevention specialist. He drafted a contract and agreed to a 10-hour consulting engagement. He walked into Flux Capital's office on June 12. The building was a glass tower with a view of the river. He met Maya and the Chief Technology Officer, Thomas Wynn. The conversation was intense. Maya explained the potential risks. Thomas wanted a risk matrix for supplier relationships. Samir's consulting session covered risk assessment, a step-by-step framework to identify potential conflicts in supplier relationships. Disclosures, how to create a disclosure document that satisfies legal, regulatory, and investor expectations. Implementation plan, a timeline for creating a policy that is both practical and enforceable. By the end of the session, Maya had a clear strategy. She was grateful for Samir's guidance. The experience was a turning point for Samir. He felt like he was putting his past mistakes into service for others. He began to see that he had a purpose beyond the promotion ladder. 5. The redemptive offer. 2 months later, on August 6, 2024, Samir received an email from Aurora Dynamics, a growing AI research company that was known for its pioneering work in neural networks. The subject line read, "Opportunity, lead Aurora's AI division." Inside, a senior executive named Rachel Chen wrote, "Aurora Dynamics, dear Mr. Patel, we have been following your recent work at Vidian Tech, and we were impressed with your analytical acumen and your commitment to integrity. Aurora is at a critical juncture, and we believe that you could be an instrumental figure in shaping our AI division. We would like to offer you a position as Chief Technology Officer, with responsibilities that include overseeing our next generation of AI products, expanding our market presence, and ensuring that our internal culture remains transparent. We are prepared to provide a competitive compensation package and a 100% ownership stake in Aurora's newly formed AI research division. Please let us know your availability for a confidential discussion." Samir sat back in his living room, a quiet apartment that smelled faintly of lemon and old books. He stared at the screen for a long moment. The memory of his termination was fresh. He remembered the cold hand that slid the letter into his hands, the coldness of the HR office, the sense of betrayal. Yet, here was an opportunity from a rival company that could help him regain his professional footing. He thought of the consultancy he had set up, of his first client Flux Capital, of how he had turned a mistake into a platform for teaching others how to navigate the pitfalls of conflict of interest. He also remembered the new policies Vidian had put in place. Perhaps the company had truly moved forward. He replied, "I would like to discuss the opportunity further." The email was quick, businesslike. He didn't waste any more time. 6. A fresh start. The meeting with Aurora Dynamics took place in a glass-enclosed conference room at their campus on the outskirts of the city. Rachel Chen was a woman of short stature and fierce optimism. She had a smile that seemed to command the room, and a calm but assertive presence that made Samir feel both at ease and challenged. "Rachel Chen, Samir, we know that you've had a turbulent journey, but we also see the talent that's left us in awe. I understand that you left Vidian after a policy breach, but we see you as a professional who knows what it means to navigate the complexities of a tech startup, that you understand the importance of integrity, and that you can turn a mistake into a lesson. We want to give you a chance to lead our AI division. We'll provide a full support team, a 100% ownership stake, and a competitive salary." Samir's eyes widened a fraction. He was used to quiet, but the idea of leading an entire division of an AI company was exhilarating. He considered the stakes, his own career trajectory, his reputation, his newfound role as a mentor. He felt his ambition rise again. This time, it was not only about a promotion but about leading a mission. He agreed to a 3-month trial period. Rachel gave him the first assignment: develop a strategic roadmap for Aurora's next-generation neural network product line. She also handed him the company's existing roadmap, the team structure, and a list of stakeholders. "Samir, thank you, Rachel. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll get started right away." He left the meeting with a newfound sense of purpose. He was going to use the lessons he learned from Vidian to build an organization that would thrive on transparency and merit. 7. A new culture. Back at Aurora, Samir worked closely with the product team, guiding them to develop an AI platform that would be compliant with all regulatory and ethical standards. He instituted an internal policy that mirrored the changes Vidian had adopted. All team members must file a conflict of interest disclosure form annually. He made the policy accessible through an internal portal that had a simple user interface. Under Samir's leadership, the team developed an AI system that could predict market trends with a 93% accuracy rate. It quickly attracted attention from investors. Samir presented the system in an innovation hub, a weekly meeting that had become the company's hallmark. The room was full of excited eyes. He spoke with clarity, with conviction, and with a voice that had once been a quiet echo in Vidian's open-door halls. 8. The final epilogue. A year later, Samir's consultancy had grown into a thriving firm that advised dozens of tech startups across the globe. He was no longer an analyst, he was a mentor, a consultant, a teacher. He delivered keynote speeches at tech conferences, sharing the story of his conflict of interest, the importance of transparency, and how a mistake could lead to a new direction. One day, in an interview with a tech magazine, he reflected. Samir Patel, the journey from being an analyst at a tech giant to leading an AI division at Aurora Dynamics taught me that transparency is not just a policy, it's a culture. Every time I see a startup ask for advice on conflict of interest, I think of my own story at Vidian. It is a reminder that honesty and integrity are the foundations of success. The camera zoomed out, leaving Samir at his desk, surrounded by a wall of framed certificates and photos of the people he had mentored. He looked up, smiled, and looked forward to the next challenge, a new startup, a new conflict of interest, and a chance to guide them on the right path.